1992, and I had spent that afternoon, with the benefit of overtime pay, I might add, on duty at the home derby match between Birmingham City and Aston Villa. Evidently, something called the Premier League had just started, and so I was told, Birmingham City were unbelievably fortunate to have qualified for entry. I wouldn't exactly describe myself as a football fan, and even though the City won 3-0, I couldn't get excited about it. I was more concerned that afternoon with the behaviour of the visiting supporters, hoping against hope there wouldn't be any trouble. Thankfully there wasn't, and the 40 or so uniformed police officers on duty at the ground returned to the station in high spirits, especially those City fans amongst us. Tell the truth, I was relieved when it was over, not simply because it had been trouble-free, but more because I seemed to have passed my first test as a woman in a dominantly male world. Later I was taking a short break with some of my colleagues in the staff canteen when the call came that the DCI wanted to see me. I ignored the taunts from the other PCs, as I ignored the fact I was to go off duty, too worried at the time in case I had committed some serious breach of discipline that might cost me my career. That was me, though, always full of guilt. I recall thinking, what on earth could a DCI possibly want from a naive young policewoman? I mean, I was very lucky to have been assigned to Birmingham Central. The West Midlands Police Force has over 7,000 officers and covers hundreds of square miles over a very wide area, stretching as far as Wolverhampton in the north, my hometown, and Coventry in the south. So really, they could have posted me anywhere, and I couldn't believe it when Birmingham Central, my first choice station, came up positive. It was like winning the pools for a newly graduated constable, although I did learn much later that it was due more to my results at police training college than the luck of any draw. The very thought of having to confront Detective Chief Inspector Templar, or Simple Simon as he was unkindly referred to by the rookies, frightened the life out of me. He was, to say the least, an extremely forbidding figure. It wasn't merely the size of the man, or the fact he was the Detective Chief Inspector. It had more to do with his overpowering presence and the sheer menace he projected, to say nothing of his abrasive manner, especially to subordinates. But after traipsing for what seemed like hours along miles of corridors through the huge Victorian building, bumping into the scores of bodies in the corridors and passing various incident rooms filled with dozens of officers, either on computer terminals or manning the phones, interview rooms, the computer centre with its row upon row of terminals and processors, and senior CID officers' units, I finally arrived at the entrance to the office suite of the DCI. On the way I had stopped at the ladies to check my appearance, and I wasn't too dismayed with what I saw. I was wearing little or no makeup. It was frowned upon at that time. But my face was presentable, and the wind had caught my high cheekbones and added a little natural colour. I wouldn't describe myself as beautiful exactly, but the odd boyfriend had told me that I was more than attractive, and that my auburn hair and the depth of my eyes was, what is it one of them had said? Oh yes, incredibly appealing. I think he meant fanciable. And being slim and having good legs helped a lot. Of course, I had been given the guided tour of the Steelhouse Lane headquarters building when I first arrived a few weeks ago. But it was so large, spreading as it did over 5 floors, and that excluded the basement cells area, that I felt it would take me years to find my way around. I was lucky to have remembered that the CID offices were on the 3rd floor. What I did forget, though, was that 3 lifts serviced each floor of the building that could have saved me time and a lot of leg ache. Much to my relief, the tormentor actually smiled at me when I finally entered his office, a mannerism, I was told later, that was completely foreign to him. He invited me to take a seat alongside an attractive but obviously very anxious woman who was already seated in front of his desk. I couldn't help noticing her striking blue eyes, whilst her hair was the colour of golden wheat. When I looked at her a second time, I had the impression she was struggling to control some inner stress. Her face was taut, like an overwhelmed spring, and those blue eyes had a haunted, almost desperate expression.